Let me introduce Technomadia, Chris and Cherie. Chris and Cherie, how you doing?
Hello. Doing great. How you
doing
doing?
awesome tonight.
Oh, good. I'm sorry about the rough little intro there. We had a little problem. My PC's a Mac and not a Mac, so I'm having these issues. Anyways, can you do me a favor and explain a little bit about yourselves and what Technomadia is?
Okay, so
Right,
we consider ourselves. I think there's suddenly a lot more lag than there was before, but so we might have to compensate for that.
Okay.
We consider ourselves technomads. We're technology-enabled travelers. We've been living on the road full time for me, it's over 4 years.
And I joined them just over 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And we've moved into our Oliver fiberglass trailer.
It's been a little bit 2 years at the end of this month.
2 years ago. And this one we've got tricked out with solar power and have made it into our ideal small little home on wheels. And so this has been our full-time home, this little fiberglass egg, for the past 2 years.
It's not just been our home, it's also been our home office.
Yes.
Yes. You've taken telecommuting to a different level because you're actually moving on the road and you're working from the road with using technology, which is wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah. So how did you start this kind of nomadic lifestyle? What brought you to that point?
That story's going to be slightly different for each of us, so I'll let Chris tell his first.
Okay. So going nomadic is something I've always wanted to do. One of a good friend and a longtime inspiration of mine is a guy named Steve Roberts. His website is either microship.com or nomadness.com. And back in the 80s, he went nomadic on a computerized recumbent bicycle that he basically built himself, adding more and more computers to it until eventually his bicycle weighed 800 pounds and is now in the Computer History Museum. But I saw him speak. Actually, I arranged for him to come speak where I was going to school, going to college, and we became friends, and I was just inspired by his idea of using technology to stay connected, to take it with you. So you can take it with you. You can still have connections with community and family. You can still work. You can still do so many things, but be mobile. So fast forward, a decade later, more than, and I'm leaving my job at Palm. I was a mobile technology expert. I was actually their chief spy, traveled the world and researched mobile technology. I love mobile technology, but I had a job that didn't give me the freedom that I wanted. I had a great apartment downtown San Francisco, but when that job ended, I wanted to hit the road, and so I gave myself an eviction date, and that set a deadline, and then I had to find a trailer and start to reinvent my life as a nomad.
Wow.
And he started out solo, and I was over on the other coast, over in Florida, where I'm a software developer, and I've run my own business with my family since like 1994, and it's always been designed to be work at home, to work anywhere where we have internet access, and be online, and as long as I have my laptop. And I was kind of splitting my time between Florida and California at the time, and contemplating moving across country. And I encountered this one online, basically. It was actually on a Prius forum, the hybrid car. And we just discovered we had a lot in common, and our lives were just merged together. So I sold my house in Florida and hit the road with him. And it was something I had contemplated doing even before meeting him, because I had gone through several hurricane evacuations living on the coast of Florida. And I'd already gone through the whole mental shift that it takes to releasing your definition of home being tied to a physical place and stuff. So having gone through that several times, I was already starting to contemplate a full-time mobile lifestyle.
And speaking of mobile, you're actually in the trailer right now using Wi-Fi to connect to us. So, there you go. I mean, you're living it.
Yes, we are.
So, Chris, you had a tab before you got the Oliver. So, can you explain how you decided to get the Oliver trailer?
So the tab was an absolutely fabulous design. I fell in love with it. It was something I could. I started off looking for something I could tow with a Prius and realized that was almost impossible. But that led me to the tab. I got a Jeep and got the tab. It was the model of the tab with the kitchen out the back, the clamshell model, and it was absolutely great for one person. And it was a really great test for Cherie and I to see how compatible we would be to spend. We spent 7 months, kind of like a shakeout cruise, living in the Tab together. And the Tab, didn't have much in the way of plumbing. The kitchen was outside, which sometimes is great, but is sometimes, late at night really annoying.
We didn't have an air conditioner. We didn't have a refrigerator. We didn't have a shower. Didn't have a bathroom. So it was a real test to a new relationship. Yes,
and it proved that we could live in a small space. The one thing the Tab did have is I'd put a solar panel on the roof and had completely redone the electrical system. But even that was more size for one person and one computer. So once we decided that we wanted to make this a long-term thing, and our partnership a long-term thing, we started trying to figure out what would be our ideal mobile home. And initially we were drawn to the casitas. We'd seen casitas around.
Right, and we went to the casita factory in Texas and did a tour and looked at them, and we just really fell in love with the floor plan. That one thing we discovered is that they were reluctant to do anything outside of their spec sheet. And knowing that we wanted solar panels, we wanted upgraded geeky stuff, we wanted extra batteries, and a lot of stuff that we knew that we'd want extra.
Yes.
And we didn't have a space to do the work ourselves.
Yeah, so basically we were starting to look around to find an older casita that would then become a project that we would have to gut it and redo from scratch. And I'd done that with the Tab. And it's kind of fun to do, but also where Cherie was living and selling her house had a no RV ordinance, so we couldn't do it there. And it was going to be a big headache and a lot of work, and there's a lot of things about the casita that were just not great. And then discovered a link to Oliver Travel Trailers on one of the casita forums.
And we popped them an email, and we got a phone call like pretty much that same afternoon, and they just wowed our socks off. And they were excited about who we were and what we were going to be doing with it. And we were talking with their plant manager and their design team. We pretty much got to meet every single person that was involved with building our Oliver, and it just they brought us in. And they made us feel like part of their family.
Yes.
And designed us our ideal home.
Yeah. It's like started with things like, okay, I really want to have 2 solar panels, and how can we work this out? And they went to the lengths of changing the way they did the fiberglass on the roof to move the air conditioner and the roof vents to further back, so there was more space for a big solar panel. And so on and so forth. We basically, they were excited to co-invent with us.
Hey, can you do me one favor? Your video is stopped, so do you mind starting it again while I talk to you a little bit more?
Sure. Let's see if this fixes it.
I'm sure.
Okay, just turn it off and on. Are we back?
You are back. So,
hey.
Yay, look, you're moving. No longer that freeze frame thing. So, you have a 17-foot Oliver, correct?
Yes.
And it can you explain a little bit about the features of it? Because I know it has like the larger tanks and the freshwater and blackwater and stuff like that.
So the Oliver is a double hull construction. So unlike a lot of the other fiberglass models, it's 2 nested hulls.
2 eggs, basically, one inside of the other.
So it's really well insulated. All of the furniture inside is actually molded in instead of riveted on. Minimal opportunity for leakage. The tanks, since they build everything custom, they didn't incorporate a lot of RV parks. They tried to do a lot of stuff on their own. The tanks are all the length of the trailer on the bottom, so they're embedded into the frame.
They're in between the outer floor and the inner floor.
So the freshwater tank is like 32.5 gallons. The gray is something like 38. The black is 18.5. Plus, there's the 6-gallon hot water heater. So we can carry a pretty substantial amount of water with us for the size trailer.
And the other advantage is because the tanks are low down, basically nestled right in the frame. The center of gravity is so low that the trailer is incredibly stable to tow. And one of the other things the Olivers are really proud of is they designed their own suspension and their own frame. So it's an aluminum frame that won't rust. And their suspension has got quad gas shocks, as well as the leaf springs. So the trailer is really, really solid and doesn't need a sway bar, and we've never felt a need for one. It's really awesome to tow.
So some other things about it is because it is the double hull construction. The interior has the gel coat, so it's bright and shiny inside. It kind of feels like being inside of a boat.
Nice.
they customize. They let you pick your own fabrics, your own floor. The inside, you can pick your own colors because they make the tables themselves even, so you can pick the color of your table, the covers on your cabinets on top. They thought about a lot of things in it, and they themselves have been casita owners, and they kind of took everything they loved about the casita and decided to make it their own ideal camping trailer for themselves. Right.
So now, when you did the solar, did you upgrade the wiring within the Oliver itself?
They basically worked with me, and we went back and forth and talked about everything down to the wire gauges, and I gave them the specs in the solar system. We went with Blue Sky solar controller, an IPN Pro battery monitor, which I think is absolutely essential for a solar system, is to have a way to actually monitor the battery accurately, more than just voltage. And the inverter charger system are all things I researched and told them what was I considered the best, and they've actually now had several other people who've basically had Oliver build them one like we have, the Technomadia.
Yeah, they actually officially have the Technomadia edition trailer now. Well, they're not making them anymore, but when they were, you can actually order the Technomadia edition, get that system.
Yeah, now, have you been back to, quote, the mothership for service at all, or are you kind of just on your
I guess it was about 10 months or so after we had it. We noticed some uneven tire wear on one of the curbside tire, and they determined that it was probably a bad axle. So they went ahead and had a new axle made for us and had us come to the factory, and we camped inside the factory. That's one thing we love about it, is they just let us camp inside the factory at night. And they put on a new axle for us, and we had a little, some little things to tweak, and so
yeah.
Right.
And they gave us brand new tires in too, which we were really impressed by.
Oh, that's perfect. That's what it should be, actually. It's all about the service.
Yep.
So, how do you like living in condensed space? What's
condensed
the key to your happiness?
Compared to a tab, this is huge.
This is double the size of our old tab. This is huge.
You're actually, I mean, you're living, working, breathing. Hopefully you're breathing. You are breathing, right?
Yeah. Well,
I mean, you have to be super organized, right? Is that the deal?
Clutter can get out of hand really quickly. It's having a lot of tolerance for each other. I think it also helps that both of us, we're both very online people. We met online. We both have online worlds, basically, whether it's work, research, reading, being involved in our communities. And we can be physically in the same room and be mentally in very different spaces. We also tend to go to very scenic places, and one of us will go out for a run or take a hike, and the other one gets some alone time.
Yeah, and I also really love working out on a picnic table too. I need my computer, and just the ultimate office is to be outside sometimes.
So now, how's your internet connection? Do you have like Verizon, or you have your iPhone, so it would be AT&T. So is that how you're working?
We both have iPhones with AT&T. And then we also have a Sprint data card that serves as our primary internet connection for the computers. That we have a little cradle-point router that converts it to a Wi-Fi signal. That
you have a Wi-Fi hotspot for your everything. Wow. And I hate to ask this, but I'm interested in this. How's the coverage with Sprint?
Decent. It's been our observation. We used to also have a Verizon phone. It was always our observation that Verizon had the best network. Sprint at the time had the best plans, so that's why we went with Sprint, because they gave an unlimited data plan. That's no longer generally available. But
we have found. Regardless of where we go, people are always asking what is the perfect network, and there is not one. Yeah. And we are often in a location where one network works and the others don't. Right. So we've been in places where AT&T is the only option. We've been in places where Sprint's the only option. Mm-hmm. So our best advice to people that are considering this sort of lifestyle is just budget to have
at least two networks.
At least two networks. Get one on AT&T or T-Mobile, and get one on Sprint or Verizon, because they're different bands. Get one on each because they tend to roam onto each other's towers. And then you at least have the option to get online through something.
Yeah. And since you're the, like I said, the ultimate telecommuters for work, and you have to rely on the internet connection at some point to get your product out or your service out. So yeah, I guess that would be essential.
Yep.
How much solar energy or power do you get out of your panels to run all your equipment during the day? Is it more than enough to run everything?
We have to be really stingy with power if we're trying to spend a long time off grid. Our batteries also charge while we're underway towing from the vehicle's alternator. So if we're only stopping for 2 or 3 days, we have plenty of power from the solar. If we're stopping for a longer period of time, we've got to budget our power carefully. We also, if we're like parked in shade or we need the air conditioner is the one thing that won't run off the solar. Is we have a small Honda 2,000 watt generator that I modified to run propane instead of gas. So we can just hook that into the trailer's propane system and get extra power from there. But in general, we do really well just focusing on the solar.
So we have 200 watts of solar panels, and during noon on a good sunny day,
we're getting 170 watts on a sunny day. You never get the maximum.
Right.
It's enough, but we can keep the 2 laptops going. We tend to not keep the big monitor running when we're off solar. We are very conscious about what lights are on, even though we're LED.
Right.
We become very conscious about the things that we're using. We're turning off the laptops if we're getting up to go out. It's just you think a little bit differently when you're off grid and trying to conserve that battery power.
Right. Now, you said you had a Honda 2000 generator. Is that enough to run your air conditioning unit?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We sized the air conditioning down to the smallest one you can get. Because space is so small and so well insulated, it actually can still almost make it snow in here. But this air conditioner is 9,200 BTU. It's small enough to be powered by a Honda 2000. So that way we don't need a big Honda 3000 or 2000, which a lot of people get stuck with.
Yeah, plus you did the modification to run off propane, so you don't have to carry any extra stuff. You just hook it up to your tanks, right? So that's a good idea.
Yeah.
We carry 50 pounds of propane with us. We have a 20-pound and a 30-pound tank. That way we always have the option of exchanging if we need to, if we can't get a refill at night. Usually that 50 pounds, because it runs the refrigerator, it runs our hot water heater, and
the stove.
And it also, can run the generator to run the air conditioner and top off our batteries. And, that can last us like a month to 6 weeks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We can go a while.
So is your hot water heater just gas, or is it gas and electric in the Oliver?
It's gas and electric. So if we're plugged in, then we save the propane, and both the fridge and the water heater will run off electric.
So I got these questions about off-grid stuff, because I find that so interesting. How much of your time do you try to do the off-grid versus, the shore power? You trying to do it every time you're going somewhere, or is it just by the scenic beauty?
It's so variable, and a lot of it is dependent upon the climate. Because we travel with a cat, so even though we might be tolerant of handling the heat, we will not subject her to uncomfortable conditions. So we do make it a priority to make sure that it is comfortable for her. We will get hookups even though we might be.
So while we were down in Florida a few weeks ago, it was essential to have. But we're going to be heading out towards the Rockies and stuff soon, and we'll probably be able to boondock on BLM land and stuff, and it'll be just great.
Right, and especially when we get into drier climates, we're not dealing with the humidity. We can counteract the heat with evaporative cooling. So we'll use that, and that makes it much more sustainable with the cat. So.
What is evaporative cooling? You got me on that.
So evaporative cooling is when you're using water evaporation to actually cool the temperature off. So
would it be like a swamp cooler?
Yeah, right.
So one of the tricks that I do is because we have the gel coat inside, I use suction cups, and we turn the vent fan onto in mode, so the air's coming into the trailer, and I put just a damp wet cloth. I suction cup it over the vent fan, and that just
cools off the whole trailer. That's my poor man's solution.
Cheap air conditioning.
Cheap air conditioning when you're in a dry climate.
Yes.
Wow. I love that. I think we were to try to do that. That's a great idea because, I was always wondering if they had propane air conditioning units. They have it for refrigerators. Why not for that? But I haven't been able to find one. So.
Yeah. Yeah, we also have a little thing called a Misty Mate, which is about the size of a glass that has a pump on the top. You pump it up, and it sprays just a really fine mist, and it'll run for like 15 minutes. And we mount that and spray that into our fan, and that will cool it down incredibly as well.
Oh, you guys are smart. You're smart, Technomadias.
And the thing with evaporative cooling or swamp coolers is they only work in dry air, so they work incredibly well in deserts. That if you try to use that in Florida, you just end up wet. So
you're already wet.
Yeah, you're already wet. The
wetter.
Humidity will just make it wetter. So it has to have dry air, but a mist into dry air makes things so much cooler.
So how long do you expect to be living in the Oliver? Because that's one of the questions. I'm kind of stealing one of the questions from the audience here. Is this something, because I read on your website you were thinking about going boating, going on the water.
We are looking at doing sailing, but we would probably, all of our scenarios with that pretty much have us doing part-time on the sailboat, part-time in the Oliver. We do get space envy every so often. We'll visit other nomadic friends of ours that have like 40-foot Class A's and buses. And
the buses we find, most of the larger or most traditional RVs we go in them and they just feel so poorly made and more made for like condos on wheels and not built for mobility, not built for energy efficiency, and
not built for going down 4x4 trails.
Not built for durability, not built to last. And so most of the RVs we see, it's like even the hugely expensive ones, you'd have to pay us to take them to Trade Oliver. But some buses are really nice.
But there are times that we do wish we had more room to like entertain and have people over to play a board game or go out to dinner or something like that.
The outdoors is your,
that works well, and so I think that we're both pretty committed to keeping the Oliver long term. As far as nomadic, we really have no intentions of quitting being nomadic anytime soon or for the foreseeable future. It's just really working for us.
Any thoughts of trying to rig up some kind of strange catamaran pontoon thing and putting the Oliver right on it? Maybe
I've had that fantasy many times, but there's not really a practical engineering solution that would lead to anything other than death.
Right, and we really want to.
Yeah, it's like the Oliver's a well-designed land yacht, and we would want something that's well-designed for water. And we've got our eye on a couple catamarans that are just very lust-worthy, and thinking about what it would take to get something that would be suitable for doing the Great Loop and exploring the Intercoastal and starting to venture further afield.
Right. Well, one thing I am kind of envious of on the Oliver is the tanks. I mean, 38 gallons for a gray water tank is just outrageous for a trailer that size. It's almost double. And for us, the big thing is the gray water all the time. So. It's a nicely designed event there. Let's see. Well, we're going to open this up to questions from the audience if we have any. So we're going to continue with that. So anyone who has any questions, please just put it in the chat room, and then we'll put them forward. So let's talk about your little product that you put out there, State Lines. So people would know what that is. I kind of heard a little bit about it on your website, Technomadia.com, and I guess it's about how things change when you go over state lines. Is that
right? So one of the things we found when we're traveling around the country is that there are lots of little laws and regulations that change from state to state. Everything from can you talk on a cell phone while driving, can you text and drive, more importantly, can you buy beer in the grocery store on Sunday?
Or can you buy wine in a grocery store at all? And so there's so many laws that change, and little laws, big laws, and there was no easy resource to know what supplies when you go to a new state, and sometimes you don't even think that these things change. So we created it.
We created it to meet our own need because we were constantly looking up this information or showing up to a grocery store, wanting to buy a 6-pack and not able to.
Yes.
So, the more we researched is like, oh, wow, there's a lot of little things, everything from can you make a left turn onto a one-way street?
And how much the taxes varied, where the gasoline tax in one state might be vastly higher than the next state. And so taking that into account, if you're on a road trip, you might pay to fuel up now before you cross the state line, or it might pay to wait until you come to a state line, and the gas prices on average will be quite a bit lower or higher.
So we put together that sort of information. Right now, the application has, I think it's 43 different data points along those lines. And since we're iPhone enthusiasts,
yes,
we decided to go ahead and try our hand at creating our first iPhone app and putting the information into an app.
Yep. So we've been very pleased. It's been on sale for almost 2 months now, and it's doing quite well. And we're working on the iPad version. We're working on all sorts of additional fields.
And we're also going to come out with an ebook version so that those without iPhones can also access the information.
I would suggest an Android version, because the HTC phone is catching some market share there.
We've had a lot of requests for it. Unfortunately, neither of us has an Android, and to develop for it, you kind of need to have one, and we're not willing to put up the money and the plan that goes along with it.
We might potentially work with somebody to port it to Android. If we're waiting for the Android, there's a lot of Android phones being sold, but so far from all the developers I've talked to, there's not a lot of, particularly the smaller Android developers, making any money. So once the store starts to kick in over there, then it'll probably be worthwhile.
All right. Well, I have an Android phone. So yeah, I'd get it.
You'll be the first to know as soon as we get an Android version out.
I must admit, I like it though. It's my first smartphone. Not that I'm hyping it up, but it's an iPhone copy basically.
I'm a mobile phone.
We're both mobile tech users. We're both smartphone users. Well, I have since 2000.
And yeah, I used to have a job where I had to buy every smartphone in the world. Quite literally, I had.
Oh yeah, because you work for Palm.
Yeah, I was the competitive guy at Palm, so I had every smartphone you could possibly get in the world, and you wouldn't believe the kind of looks I'd get going through airport security sometimes.
Oh yeah, actually, I just talked about the Palm. I almost got the Pre because it had that little Wi-Fi hotspot built into it.
Yeah,
but there wasn't anything else behind it. Really, it wasn't any applications or any things that I could use. So, but I like the concept. Anyway,
yeah, cool.
So you make a living basically using your technology, because that's one of the questions on the forum here. So you basically are consultants, and you have a set of clients that you work for, Cherie?
I'm a software developer, and I've got some pretty major clients that I'm supporting from the road. So they're systems that I developed, and they're some pretty massive systems that we support from the road.
Wow. So are they web-based?
Yeah. Web-based applications.
Oh, there you go. And let's see, we have another question here. Oh, we lost your video.
There. Cherie bumped the button. There we go.
Oh.
We should be back.
Let's just slap her around a little bit. So, what's the most I know this is like a canned question, but what's the most amazing thing about your lifestyle? Because you're free, right? You're sort of free, because everyone's, no one is truly free, but you do have the ability to roam, and there's advantages and disadvantages to that. So, what's the most amazing thing that you like about this lifestyle?
For me, it's the amount of quality time that we get to spend with loved ones and friends and family as we travel.
Yeah, when we visit people, it's we're not guests, so we're not feeling like we're imposing. We're not tying up a guest room, but we can have long visits. When you live close to people, you tend to see them very sporadically, and when you go visit people far away, you tend to have a concentrated weekend where you try and see everything and do everything all in a short span of time. When we visit people, we can be temporary neighbors, and sometimes for a week or two or three or longer. And it's a much more relaxed quality of getting quality time with people who are who are all over the country, both friends and family.
And being to really be there. Like my father was recently diagnosed with lung cancer, and we were able to pull into Florida for several weeks and be there for the entire surgery, and be there for when he was brought home from the hospital, and really help out the family with the aftercare. So
right,
yep.
Again,
those are things that
the ability to pick up and leave.
Yeah.
Right, and without it really affecting. I mean, I didn't have to take time off work. We didn't have to change anything else from our lifestyle to be able to do that.
Yep, just move our house.
And that's very easy for you to move your house. We have a couple questions about Oliver. So, is Oliver still planning to building trailers again in the future?
We do not know.
Last we heard, they are evaluating the situation. They haven't shut down. They switched to making bathtubs, so they were able to keep all their equipment and gear and all their people and expertise. So we don't really know when they might return to trailer making. Hope they do.
They've got it on indefinite reevaluation at this point. We hope they come back, but it's anyone's guess at this point.
And if you really want to,
they actually were in the tub business before they were in the RV business, right? I think that was it.
Well,
they were in fiberglass business in general. The tub line is something they started in response to the RV sales.
And these aren't just regular bathtubs. These are very high-end, handicap accessible luxury bathtubs that sell for like $10.
The bathtubs sell for as much as an RV does, and there's, I guess, a bigger market of people with bad hips who can't climb in a bathtub, so they have the bathtubs with the doors. They're like, So that's the market they're catering to now, and seemingly they're doing pretty well with that. And they also have a separate Oliver company that is doing foundations for mobile homes, and that's been a big production for them for a long time. And so the company's going strong. It's just they've got all their RVs kind of sitting in hiatus. And in particular, they had the 22-foot model of Oliver that I think they only made two or three of before it stopped. So that's also a really fabulous design. We've gotten to see it and tour it, but they're very, very rare.
Okay, so I have another question about Oliver, since you guys are the Oliver guys. Do you think the Oliver is too well made or expensive, and as a consequence, to survive in this tough RV market?
I think what Oliver got caught up in is coming out at the wrong time. There is a market for high-end quality RVs in this size class. It's just a smaller market. And unfortunately, when you've got a bad economy where people don't have that sort of extra spending to get their ideal trailer, it becomes not an option for them. From our opinion, the quality is spot on. And the cost to us, I would have paid double for it.
Because it's our house and we're in it every day, we appreciate the quality every day. For somebody who's not, then it becomes, you're better off with something cheaper. Could be. And people pay a fortune, a lot more for an Airstream than for an Oliver. And the Olivers are better made and better designed than Airstreams, but Airstreams have the luxury brand. I think if Oliver had been better positioned to try and claim some of that market and really try and compete with Airstream and say, hey, we've got a better, more modern design, better built, and we're still cheaper than an Airstream, but we're like going after the people who are willing to pay that. They could have done really, really well, but they just had really bad timing.
Right. I think if they had launched even just a year earlier, they would have had enough following to really have grown.
Just so you guys know, we have an Airstream.
Oh yeah.
And you're right. There are some quality control issues at Airstream because for them, it's, I hate to say it, it's like it's a factory where people are, it's a job, not a career. They're not invested in it as much. And I think when you get into a small company like Oliver or Escape, every employee makes an impact on the finished product, and they love it. So and it shows in the quality and the build.
In the case of the Olivers, because their family name is on it, and there's like 9 Oliver kids, and 7 of them work at the factory, and so they take a lot of pride, and they have kind of an unofficial lifetime warranty because their name's on it. They really want to take care of you because it's their name. The Airstream's now owned by Thor Dutchman, the same company that made the Tab, and I love the design of the Tab. The design was mostly from Germany, but I used to say that the Tabs all felt like they were built on Friday afternoon before a long weekend. The quality control was, in some ways, horrendous. The design was great, but I actually had to tear out and redo so much of the basic stuff in the Tab just because, the people are not, they don't really care. It's just a job to them, and they're trying to make it as cheap as possible.
All right, and for us, it's there's an emotional connection to what you have. Right. Mm-hmm. So either you like it out of the box, or you love the design, or you love something about it, and then you forgive the flaws because you like it, right? So but eventually the flaws do catch up to it. So, all right. So, since you are on the road all the time, not all the time, but you're full-timing it, so to speak, you're connected to a different kind of world and pulse of America. What have you learned that's been so unexpected that you say, hey, I want to continue doing this?
I think it's just how alike people really are. We all you like to think that, it's them, they're different. Rural people are different from urban people. I mean, there are differences, but down to the core,
there's good people everywhere.
There's good people everywhere. And a lot of people expect that, when you're out on the road, it's scary. You're going to encounter scary people. I've yet to meet a scary person. Just people everywhere. As long as you approach them with a smile, they respond with a smile.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, I think that is if we have any more questions from the audience. Okay, I think that's it. Well, thank you so much for the show. It was I started off a little rough because of my PC. If I owned a Mac, I would not have these problems. But it's been fun. And if you want to tell us the name of your site and your product and where they can get it from, that would be great. And then we'll just kind of close it out here.
So our website is technomadia.com. You can also find us on Twitter as Technomadia, and our iPhone app is called State Lines.
Okay, and you can find you're on Facebook too. There's a
we have it's also Technomadia.
TECHNOMADIA.
All right, we'll post a link obviously at the end of this as well. So thank you so much for this. It's been a wonderful show, and we'll see you guys on the highway.
Hey, take care.
And that's our show for tonight, our interview with Technomadia. And thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you guys on the highway. Take care.